Hi, folks. Andrew here. Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. Fitness over 50. Feel better, look better, gain some confidence. And we have another interview coming for you today, coming at you today. And as always, I do these things one take. And granted, this is recorded. We're not live, but it's going to be one take. So you guys know how this works. So, all right. Today we're going to be talking about men stuff, basically. Yes, I'm sorry, ladies, but it's all going to be about men stuff. But that does not mean women cannot benefit from it as well, especially if you got a husband, significant other, brother, father, something like that. Okay. So today's guest, Brian Parana. He's a health and lifestyle coach. Brian just isn't a health coach. He's a transformative force of high performance professionals who want their body, energy, and mindset to match their ambition. With over 23 years of experience, Brian blends science-backed strategies, relentless support, and personalized systems to help clients take control of their health without sacrificing their careers or family lives. I'll get into a lot more. Well, he'll get into a lot more. But in all that, and now you can also say you're a guest on Top Fitness Strategies. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you having me
Okay,
on. It's been a
no
lot of fun.
problem. That's what we're here for. So, as I always tell people, before we get started, of course, I talk to my guests a little bit. And so we decided that I want to stick with more of the smart nutrition for busy professionals. And
Yep.
Brian focuses more on the male population. So we're going to focus on that. But that does not mean, like I said, it's all going to be catered toward just the guys. I'm sure all
Yeah,
these
we'll
tips,
throw some
tricks,
women stuff in. I still work with women too.
good.
Yeah, we'll cover all our
Absolutely.
bases today on
Absolutely.
nutrition for busy professionals, no doubt.
Okay, so Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started with this nutrition stuff, and why
Yeah.
focus on the busy pros and things of that sort? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if we want to go way back, it started in high school doing track. My buddy Dan invited me out to the track team, and then all of a sudden I'm running and doing cross country with them, and that just became the love of training and performance and doing better. Yeah, I remember reading in Men's Health magazines and Runner's World about nutrition and understanding. Oh, you need to have some glucose before your workouts and stuff, so that became the early interest. Then fast forward into actually getting into college, started teaching group exercise classes, got an exercise nutrition degree back in '04, dating myself a little bit, but that will tell you how long I've been doing this. Personal training, I've owned two gyms for about 5 years, and I've been doing the last 12 years talking to people over the phone about their health, their nutrition, their fitness, and ultimately living a lifestyle that they can give the look, the feel, the body that they want to live
Hmm.
in, and not have to think, oh, what am I going to eat today? Or, oh, I skipped lunch. What now? What? I'm just gonna, I guess, go fall onto the couch and just eat all the goodies and treats and stuff because I can't control my food cravings or whatever. And it's just been an evolution. Spent a lot of time early on about exercise. And then as I started talking to people, I realized that the nutrition, it's at 80/20, right?
Hmm.
80% of the
Hmm.
results are going to be in the nutrition.
Hmm.
And that's what we needed to focus our efforts on
Hmm.
moving forward.
You
And
know,
just the last thing is I will have people range from exercise of walking, literally just walking, to
hmm
they'll have personal trainers or going to group classes or something, say Orange Theory or CrossFit. But I can get them transformative results through talking with them and educating them around what to do and how to do and how to fit it into their life.
my word, it's almost like looking into a mirror, but on the other side, it's a lot better looking a younger guy than I am because
Thank
because
you.
we do basically do the same thing because I'm
Yeah.
the same way. And about the nutrition part, and I think it's based on when we go back to our high school and college years. I don't. You just said you were an athlete in high school. So was
Yep.
I. Ran cross country, played
Yeah.
baseball in college for a couple of years. So
Nice.
we're similar.
Right.
Back then, when let's just say below 25 years of age, we'll just leave it, keep a round number there. The nutrition wasn't a big deal. At least it
Yeah.
wasn't for me. It wasn't for a lot of my friends. I
No.
mean, we'd work
No.
out like fiends, but then we'd go out drinking every Friday, Saturday night, and late night fast
Uh,
food restaurant joints or whatever, and
right.
throughout the week, pizza and beer, and we still had the the 6 pack and the
Yeah, the
big
six
big
pack.
B's and everything else. And so as we got older,
Yeah.
40 plus years old,
Right.
the mentality that the guys have, especially, I was a muscle head in the gym, so I can talk this. What the guys have after 40 is, I'm just going to work out, and the nutrition isn't even in my radar because it never was. It never had
Right.
to been. But then as we get older, for me, it was after 45 years of age, I said, you know what? Nutrition is a bigger part of this than I thought it was. And
Yeah.
I need to start focusing more on that, even though I still like the workout part of it. That's the macho style of everything else. But the older I get, I'm in my late 50s now, as of the period of this recording, and the I guess the contrast between working out or having a good diet is more leaning. The scales are more tipping toward the better diet now than
Yeah.
what they were back then. Am I saying that accurately? Do you come across that as
Totally.
well?
Oh, totally, right? You can't outwork a bad diet.
Mm-hmm.
Is maybe in your early 20s you
There you
can,
go.
but as we get older, you can't just go out and run 10 miles to burn off a bunch of calories. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to burn, I always love this example, burn 200 calories, it's going to take you about 30, 40 minutes of walking. Maybe a little bit faster if
Mm-hmm.
you do some cardio, but at the fastest amount of calories per minute, it would be maybe 10 or 15 calories per minute. You're still putting in a lot of effort to get calories burned.
Mm-hmm.
But how long does it take to eat 200 calories? 2 bites, right?
Exactly.
And you get yourself in trouble pretty quick that way. And oftentimes people just have 200 extra calories fall in their mouth and they don't even realize it in the course of the day because they grab this or they eat off the kid's plate a little bit of that, or they had a spoonful of something before
Mm-hmm.
dinner. And
Mm-hmm.
there you go. There's an extra 100, 200 calories that just fell in your mouth and you didn't realize it. And that becomes the true challenge for a lot of busy people because they're just moving so quick with work and life and
Mm-hmm.
kids and all the responsibilities they have.
Yeah. So you mentioned calories, and I know isn't something that I get into too much because I am definitely not a calorie counter at all. I cannot
Yeah.
stand it, and for personal reasons. I shouldn't say personal reasons. I'm not that disciplined to weigh out everything. Okay,
Ah, there you
but but my
go.
but my question to you is and I've had this. I don't want to say argument because it's not an argument. It's just a debate. It's different philosophies.
Sure.
Is a calorie always a calorie? So, for instance, if I had if I was going to eat, let's just say 2,000 calories a day,
Yeah.
if I had 2,000 calories of jelly beans versus 2,000 calories of chicken and fish and things like that,
Right.
just because there's the same calories, nutrition wise, they're not the same, right?
Of course. Right. Yeah. That's a
You
simple
would be
term.
surprised how many people will debate you and say, yes, they are the same,
No,
which
no,
makes no
they're
sense to me.
no, it doesn't. You have the fact of the matter is that it's 2,000 calories each. But
Hmm.
eat, you know, meat, vegetables, whole foods, different things like that, and then eat just sugar, you're gonna feel radically different. Your body's gonna respond radically different. You do that for 2, 5, 8 months or something, as an example, your body will be drastically different just because of those. And the metabolic processes and the digestive processes that happen on the back end or inside the body as a result of, say, sugar coming in and constantly spiking your blood sugar levels and messing around with
Hmm.
insulin and such, you just literally just not going to feel well, or just talk about inflammation.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yes, 2,000 calories equated, sure, but I think we both know that the nutritional aspect of the vitamins and minerals and the different things that it's going to do to the body will
Hmm.
be vastly different. The further, so we have what the two boats start off in the same point, and they're 1 degree separate from each other, right? And the
Hmm.
farther out they
Oh yeah.
go,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like
Interesting,
that,
interesting. Yeah. And so once again, you and I have the same mindset. Now,
yeah,
yeah, I use extreme example there. Okay, so but I just want to
yeah,
make sure everybody understands a
right,
calorie. In my book, a calorie is not a calorie. In on paper, yeah, 1 calorie equals 1 calorie, but
right,
it depends on what was the calorie comes the packaging of the calorie, if you want to like a better
agreed,
term. So, all right, something that and this is a thing that I like to ask about this, especially when I talk to somebody who's into nutrition as much as you are. When you talk to somebody guys over 40, my case usually over 50, what are some of the bad habits that they have that you need to break them of that they may not know that they have? Or if that's even a fair question. I told you I
Oh,
wasn't going to put you on the spot or give you a
no, this is
gotcha
good.
questions. I don't think this is, but
This isn't a tough one at all. Again, we can put this under the umbrella of every human being, male,
okay, yeah.
female, young, and old. What are some of the habits, behaviors that they get stuck or trapped in and don't realize?
Hmm.
Well, I already said one of them is grabbing little bits of food that they don't realize add up over time. If you're trying to lose weight in a sense and you need to be in a calorie deficit and you eat an extra 30 calories here, 70 calories there, and extra 25 there, and all of a sudden you have 200 extra calories in your day, what
Hmm.
happens? You're more toward calorie maintenance, even if you did everything perfect and you tracked your food and you had all these things and you just had a little bit more, then we technically you might not lose weight because you're not in a calorie deficit. So that's one of them. Number two is that they are busy. So there's this lack of planning or preparation to make it easy to act on. I call it PPA: plan, prepare, act. And so often that every busy professional with a family in their
Hmm.
40s and 50s is doing is I have 4 kids. It's constantly, where are we going? Who's going where, when, how, what? My wife and I constantly looking at the schedule and texting and messaging or talking or calling or whatever to make sure that we have our kids covered and we know where one is. Now, fortunately, one drives, the oldest he drives, he's 16 and he thinks he owns the car now. You know how that goes, right? That's real fun. But so that's another thing. Is there's just a complete lack of preparation. For example, lunch. You should pack a lunch and just eat it. It will simplify the time. There's a gentleman, Dan, actually, most recently, I got him to he works a mile away from his house. So we got
Hmm.
him to walk to and from work because it costs the same amount
Yeah,
of time either way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then I got him to pack a sandwich with some low fat protein, deli meat or any meat. Then I got him to have an piece of fruit and some vegetables. And that was a rinse and repeat lunch that he actually fell back in love with. He actually even got his 1980s lunchbox with the Saturday morning cartoon figure on it, and then he would take that into work. And that was a really easy, it was under 500 calories. He was spending 10, 12, no, excuse me, not more than 10, but more like 15 or $20 eating out multiple times a week, spending that much money, spending even more time because a packed lunch of a sandwich of fruit and vegetable, that's going to cost you 5 minutes. But if you go out somewhere, that's going to cost you 45 minutes. And
Hmm.
now you're not as productive and you're generally going to eat food that's high calorie. It's going to be high carb, maybe high sugar or something. And it's going to send you into a carb coma for the second half of the day. And now you're actually not productive anymore. Add 2 or 3. So there's that. Number three is a skipping meals because I'm going to fast or I got busy at lunch and I don't have a plan B for that. And then all of a sudden by 3 o'clock, they're hangry and they're going to eat whatever they can get their hands on, which then further perpetuates them overeating the rest of the night because they get into this like food roller coaster of hormones and desires and cravings and they're starving when they get home and all these things. So those are some simple off the top of the head ones that
Okay.
most people fall into.
Man, you had so many different threads I can go into on this one. So,
I'm leaving
so
it wide open for you. Which
two of the
avenue do you
things I
want to
wrote,
go?
two of the things I wrote down because one of them, I'm fascinated by this, and I actually interviewed somebody about a year ago,
Mhm.
and we talked about intermittent fasting, and you just
Oh yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
fasting.
yeah,
Are
yeah.
you a fan or not a fan of? Fan or not a fan is not the right word. Do
Right.
you advise it to your clients to do any kind of fasting, or whether it be
I
intermittent or whether it be like
yeah,
days fasting? Are you a fan of that at
yeah.
all?
I like to think of fasting. I swap the word out.
Okay.
So that one, if I can say, hey, Andrew, I hear you are talking about intermittent fasting. It's all the
Hmm.
rage, and I don't know what you do or don't know about intermittent fasting, how much of all the stuff that you do or don't buy into as well. So let's swap it out with this word, food window, this phrase. So intermittent fasting, food window. There's a time in the day that you eat and a time in the day that you don't. right? Now all of a sudden it simplifies. So whatever you thought of fasting, we can just step back. Meaning that, hey, a traditional fasting window is 16 and 8. 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating. You're going to do 12 to 8 for your food window. Okay. Now we're going to step back even further. A simple, basic question I ask every single client ever is, write this down, everyone, is when in the day does it make most sense to eat? When in the day does it make most sense to eat? In your schedule, in your life, around your energy? Because I wanted the person to tap into their normal behaviors around food. Most people that I've ever worked with, maybe grandma had it right, but 3 square meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, in a sense, makes a lot of sense for for 99% of people usually.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they do a fourth meal, and that's say a pre-lunch, but even more that afternoon snack, as they might say. So they're going to have 3 or 4 meals most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone says, "Oh, I got to fast because that's the way to lose weight," well, if you said had 500 calories for breakfast every single day of the week, 7 days a week, and you cut that meal out, that would be 3,500 less calories. Technically, theoretically, that's your 1 pound of fat loss every week by just not eating breakfast. So, what I'm deferring to is it's a really easy way to control calories when you have this much time to eat. But
Mm-hmm.
if you overconsume calories in that window, will it fasting magically still work and get you to lose weight? No, you will still gain weight even if you're eating in a 4 hour window of time and you go all day famished because you got to get to 20 hours without food because magic happens then or something. For me, after I get past, say, 12, 13, or 14 hours, I'm hungry. I'm starving. And now my natural behavior tendencies are going to start to come into play of grabbing whatever food I can get my hands on at that particular time, which then doesn't help anything because I'm blood sugar's tanking. I'm low on energy. My productivity is not very good. I just think about food. That's not helping anyone. Whereas if you would have eaten 2 hours prior and not been in that 16-hour window or whatever, 8 hour window, then you may have been able to skirt through that. And secondly, oh great, I'm glad you're going to eat at noon, but every single work day you get your lunchtime scheduled over, which then defaults that you don't even get a break till 3 o'clock. So one of my coaching clients always like Miss Jones. Like this is funny. It was always Miss Jones is the sales guy. So tell me, Miss Jones. So Miss Jones, if you are always busy at lunch, how do you expect to eat? And then you always eat at 3, which then sends you into this spiral around food, and you have a very poor relationship around food. So if we pan back, you can start seeing all these different layers of why fasting
Mm-hmm.
might be a horrible idea for someone, where someone else it might be a better idea. But again, it just goes back to the food window concept. Does that all that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
Because once again, I want to stay with the smart nutrition for busy pros.
Yeah.
So the fasting, and I don't want to harbor on the word
The
intermittent
word.
fasting at all. But since we brought it up, and we're talking about it then. So if somebody wanted to do intermittent fasting, whatever that means to that particular person, whether it's a 12-12, a 14-8, whatever. Well, 14-10, I guess it would be. My math
16.
is
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Math is off a little bit there.
yeah.
Is it a good idea for someone to say, okay, let's say your last meal is going to be you finish at 6 or 7 p.m. at night. If you don't eat anything, you don't snack before bed or whatever, and you wait until 7 before you eat, that's a 12-hour fast right there. So
Exactly.
it kind of it's already built into a lifestyle. I
Yes,
mean, that's the way I look into it.
exactly. Let's go back to the 1950s and you weren't allowed to eat after dinner or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And if you
yeah.
ate at 6 or 7 o'clock p.m. and then you woke up and ate at 6 or 7 in the morning, that's a 12-hour window of time. That's a
Hmm.
reasonable amount of time for you to manage without food and not show up at breakfast starving in a sense. For me, my window of time usually starts around 9, 10 a.m. 3, 6, 10, or 11 o'clock at night some nights. I literally will eat a meal and go to bed. But calories are equated. I'm eating the calories that I'm supposed to, and consequently, I wake up the next day weighing the same as I did the day before, and it doesn't matter when I eat in the day. And even to further prove this, I always ask people this because this is always an undertone of people like, should I fast or not? Is if, say, Andrew, we were working together and you lost 10 pounds, maybe it took 4, 5, 8 weeks, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
But hey, we lost 10 pounds in X time frame. Andrew, does it matter when you ate your meals in the day?
Good. It's a good
It's
thought
a great
process there. I
question,
like
right?
that. Yes,
And so what's the
absolutely.
answer? No, it doesn't matter when you ate. So we go back to the personal preferences of that client and ask them the relevant question of when do they think that it's best for them to eat in their busy day in life. So we set them up for success, not just now trying to lose weight, but create behavior patterns and systems and time frames and schedule and routines and all these things that stack. So what we do in 2 weeks, we can continue in 2 months and 2 years, so on and so forth, so that we can maintain success and not all of a sudden, oh, I didn't eat carbs for 12 weeks because the internet told me. Well, what happens on 12 weeks in one day? And then you start eating carbs. Well, you didn't learn anything about carbs in your relationship and improving it and understanding how carbs fit in, because every single person I've ever worked with eats carbs on a daily basis. Just some
Hmm.
can eat more because they're more active or they have more muscle or they can tolerate more, and others can't because they might be smaller or they are less active. And carbs are energy and they just don't need as much energy as they want.
So
Say the
it seems
jelly
like
beans.
your personal philosophy with all this, and
Mm.
when I say this, no one's right or wrong, is because
Right.
as you know, doing these podcasts with other
Oh,
folks
yeah.
as well, you run into folks who have a total opposite philosophy of yours, but the end goal is to make our clients healthier than they currently are.
Yes,
So keep that in mind.
exactly.
So your
And
philosophy is it's not so much when you eat, it's what you eat. Is that
uh
accurate to say?
No, not necessarily, because
Okay,
we could
all
still
right,
have
all right.
jelly beans and stuff
Well,
to
yeah.
and still be wildly successful. We're building off of the basic foundation of nutrition concept and then
Okay,
applying them into the everyday life of my client. And
okay,
my client's life is the it's not a variable, it's consistent, right? Every week
okay.
they
Gotcha,
work
gotcha, gotcha.
this much time, they have this much family time, they have go to bed at this time, they wake up around this time, they have this much time to work out, right? That is a constant. And but they don't know how to weave in nutritional concepts around eating whole foods or balanced meals or cooking their food or going to the grocery store. Should they
Okay,
go to the grocery store? Should they get it Instacart to their house or something and delivered? How do they know how to cook? Do they know how to cook? This person cooks in oil, didn't realize that it's 120 calories per tablespoon, whereas this person I can't cook at home because they travel so much. So I'm advocating for the client every single time and using nutrition as the backbone to then educate and implement simple strategies into their day-to-day life. Whereas one person, the intermittent fasting is a tool and it might work really well for this person, but that person, it's a horrible idea. Tracking macros and calories might make tons of sense for this person, but Brett, he travels so much. I ask
mhm,
him whenever we talk, what city are you in right now? Because he doesn't cook any of his food. And so I've had thousands of calls where I've talked to people about their life, and within 40 minutes, George was a gentleman. He was in his mid to late 50s. We talked for less than 40 minutes. I gave him my first call prep video that I have for everyone to prepare for my our first call, to make sure that
mhm,
we say set sail toward the destination, not 1 degree off, but
okay,
we set sail, and it goes over these basic concepts of calories and timing of food, portion control, meal design. Those are the basic components that I get person to drink enough water, 80 ounces for women, 100 ounces for men. Can I get the moving 10K steps? And with George, he was only eating 2 meals. I got him to eat 3 meals we had a 40-minute phone call, And within 3 days, he sent me a text saying his wife noticed that he was less bloated. And
Oh,
he went
wow.
out of his way to share that with me. I was like, yeah, this is it, because now we're getting more regularity in terms of digestion and processing, and he's eating better balanced meals, and then he's not bloating from whatever he was eating to now he's eating. And that's the impact of having a customed approach around nutrition, around science-backed information implemented into your everyday life as easy as possible. And that's the most important thing, is I'm here to make it as simple and easy as I can, because weight loss is simple, but it's not easy. Or even
Hmm.
more importantly, is that weight maintenance is simple, but it's not easy. And it's not a weight loss problem, because so many people lose weight. It's a weight maintenance issue that America has. They don't know how to maintain a healthy body weight.
That I agree with. I mean, you go a lot more in depth with folks than I do.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I say I like to keep things simple, I mean my simple is up here. Your simple might be here, but which is a lot more power packed information. I say drink more water, cut
Yeah.
back on salt, cut back on sugar. If you can start with those three things,
Yeah.
then
Basic.
we'll start building on that afterwards. But
Exactly.
if you
Right.
can't even do those three things,
Right.
we got a bigger problem
Right.
mentally than what you think you do.
Yep. So
And
when I stack it, I will go, okay, we need to be calorie aware. We don't have to count calories necessarily, but you need to be aware of what's in the food that you're eating. And so many people, when we get into, say, the second or third week, to, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this food had this many calories in it. That's a huge insight, because they were mindlessly doing this, say, pouring oil into a pan, and
mhm.
next thing you know, there's 200 calories in the pan, and they're just blindly adding it because grandma did or mom did, and they just cooked in the oil, and that's just whatever happened. Well, we don't have to cook in oil to make it not stick to a pan, in a sense, especially if we're paying more attention to calories to, say, lose weight. Then, that is just one way to cook and keep food from sticking in a pan. And yes, there can be flavor and other reasons why you'd want to have oil or
Mhm.
fat in your diet. Yes, you need fat, but that's a really simple way to cut calories out, by water sauteing or using other forms to cook food without mindlessly dumping in a bunch of calories into the frying pan.
Okay. Now, since we're in the talking about nutrition and
Yeah.
different kind of diets and things of that sort, I want to throw this one at you. And again, folks, this is not intended to be a gotcha question. This is not intended to be anything else. But I've interviewed folks, uh, somebody who's a raw food expert, somebody who's a
Yeah.
carnivore, somebody vegetarian,
Right.
somebody vegan, somebody does all this. My personal philosophy is, if you're, for instance, I'm going to use extremes here. If you're a vegan, and heaven forbid a piece of animal flesh touches your skin in any way, shape, or form, if that's your philosophy, I will work around that. But
Yes.
don't think that's always just a be all end all diet,
Right.
because you and I both know. Well, I shouldn't say that. I just by talking to folks, I can make arguments on almost any kind of
Oh, of course.
nutrition program out there,
Right.
pros and cons versus other ones.
Right.
Is am I saying that correctly? Is that making
Totally.
sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
totally,
Okay.
totally, right? I've worked with vegans, carnivores, all in between, omnivores, and sometimes, say, the vegan might be protein deficient by a big way, because
Hmm.
they're eating so much, say, raw plant-based foods, and they just aren't getting their protein needs met at all. Whereas a carnivore might be eating so much, meat and fat, that they're not getting their micronutrient needs met with vegetables, fiber, vitamins and minerals. And so you have, literally, you can argue each point to
Hmm.
death if you wanted to. That's I'm not going to argue with anyone. I'm
Right,
going
right,
to,
right, right.
again, I work with that guy, that person, and say, okay, where are you at on the spectrum, and where, even more importantly, are the gaps in your knowledge and application of nutrition into your busy life? That's where I'm going to start.
Yeah, and that's what it boils down to is personal lifestyle.
Yeah.
Whatever your personal lifestyle is, and because everyone has a different philosophy when it
Right.
comes to nutrition, I think. And at my age and the people I work with, I always say maybe we don't know what we should be consuming nutrition wise in our body unless you studied it. But most adults, especially my age and over 40, we know what our I don't want to say bad foods, but the crappy foods for us. I mean, if you eat pizza and beer all the
Oh
time, come
yeah,
on
yeah.
now. We know better than that.
What's healthy or not, right?
Yeah, yeah. We should know what's not so much what's healthy, but we should know what's not healthy. I'll
Yeah,
put it that way. Because once again, you and I you study a lot more about this than I do, more in depth of what's good for us. But I think more broad is people don't know, or people know what isn't good for them, if that makes
okay.
sense, how I'm saying
Right,
that.
right,
Okay.
right.
And a person being a busy professional, which was the whole thing is about today, they have to um, think about, okay, what's busy to me might not be busy to
Yeah.
you.
Everyone
So
is
they're
busy in my world.
right,
They're all
right,
busy,
right.
but it varies greatly on what they think is busy or not.
My philosophy is life happens. It's going to
Yes.
happen to you.
Oh
It's going to happen
yeah.
to me. It might
Yep.
happen. You have 4 kids. I don't have any.
Yeah.
Obviously, your idea of life happening is a lot different than my idea of life happening.
Like
That does
curveballs.
not mean you're busier than me or I'm
No.
busier than you, because we're both busy in different aspects of everything else. So
Exactly.
when it boils down to everything,
Right.
and I just thought about this, and I could be totally wrong. When you say smart nutrition for busy pros, well, first of all, just because it works for you may not work for me busy wise. But nutrition is nutrition when it
Right. And
boils
you're a
down to it.
human being.
You're a
And there's
human being, right?
fundamental things that have to happen.
Right. I hope I'm phrasing that right.
Yeah,
I know,
you're doing
uh,
yeah, yeah.
Brian. I only asked for a half hour of your time, and our half hour is up right
Uh,
now. So
we
tell
can
folks.
keep going. I'm good if you want to keep going for a little bit longer.
I'm sure I will, but I want to make sure that we tell people where to find
Oh
you,
yeah.
what you have available, what's going on, and things of that sort. So go ahead and tell us
Yeah,
everything that
wonderful,
we're.
wonderful. Well, you can find me at Coach Brian Parana, just my name on the Instagram, the Facebook, and TikTok, all those places. Right, you got to be everywhere these days. So you can find me there. I have a men's group that focuses on 40-plus-year-old men that are headed toward a midlife crisis. To be honest and frank, their health
Are
is
the
so out
youngsters?
of
Are the youngsters quote unquote?
yeah, yeah, but their health is so off base that because they've been put they've been doing work, they've been providing, they've been raising a family, and now they're 20, 40 plus 50 pounds overweight, and
Mhm,
the doctor's just waiting for them to show up with a health issue. They might be good now, but they're not going to be in another 5 to 10 years, and by that point it could be too late. The average man's living 76 years old, and if you're in your 40s and you show up in bad health, just do some quick math and
mhm,
see where that lies. So I draw the attention in toward nutrition and toward fitness and toward taking better care of yourself so that you can really thrive and just have a wonderful 50s and 60s and live as long as you can in the best, healthiest looking body. Because hey, you got all the toys in the house and the cars, and your body looks like garbage, quite
mhm.
frankly. So there's a men's group called the Call to Rise.com. And if you want to find me at brianprana.com, that's where I do a lot of nutrition for busy professionals and health coaching and stuff.
Okay. Okay. So you're called to rise. You say this is a men's group. Right away,
Yeah.
when I hear something like that, men's group, I'm
Yeah.
thinking more of a, and I know this is not what you. At least I'm assuming it's not what I'm thinking of a church organization. So when you say men's group,
Yeah.
what are you referring to a men's group?
Yeah. It's going to be a bunch of like minded, driven men that are really fast paced, ambitious. They have careers that are really successful in, and they identify with being that successful person. But when they look in the mirror, it's a lack of congruency. And so the goal is to lose 20 pounds in 100 days or more, 20 pounds or more in those 100 days, and doing it through building a lifestyle, building nutrition, building fitness, and getting activated into that healthy lifestyle so that they can really thrive going into their 50s and some of the best years that are ahead for them, and not just coasting into disease or just chronically being overweight and your kids just know you as being, for lack of a better way to say, is fat and
Hmm.
overweight and unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, yeah. And I don't mind using that term on my show. I use it all the
Yeah,
time. Okay.
yeah, it's
I'll be
just
I'll be the first to
overweight.
admit.
It's unhealthy, right? I mean, you could be say 10, maybe 20 pounds overweight, but after that, you are risking health issues,
Mhm,
chronic disease. You're risking the cost of not having energy or productivity to the degree that you once had, or the
mhm,
confidence in your body. If you if you look in the mirror and you don't feel like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good here. I've got the best dad bod around, then it is costing you on some level of
Hmm.
confidence or connection with yourself or your partner or your kids. You come home and you don't play with them. You sit on the couch because you're exhausted from the day.
Yep.
That's no good to anyone.
Yep, 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 and I've been saying the same kind of things
Yeah.
for a long time as well with my stuff. Okay, so one question, and this will be the final question, and
All right.
let you get out of here. We talked about a lot about counting calories throughout this thing, and I mentioned earlier that I do not count calories. I can't stand it. It is a it's I don't want to say it's a pet peeve. It's just not my style. It would drive me nuts if I had to start counting calories.
Yeah,
How
sure.
would you work with? Because I'm sure I can't be the only one out there. So
Oh
I'm
no.
sure you've ran into
No.
people like myself who says I just don't want to count calories. So
Right.
what is another way to look at it at the proper nutrition for the busy individual
Right.
instead of counting calories?
Well, the very first thing I'm going to have someone do is look at a nutrition label and understand what's in the food that they're eating so that they can start making a better choice on, is this a good food to put in my mouth or not? What's the proper portion of this food to put on my plate? And how does it combine with other foods that I'm going to eat in that meal? So it doesn't have to necessarily be calorie counting at all. I do have people that calorie count. I have other people that don't, but we're still working off basic fundamentals of
Hmm.
picking higher quality foods, putting them in a balanced meal approach around proteins with some vegetables, maybe some fruit, a little bit of starch, a little bit of healthy fat, and then having 3, maybe 4 meals at an appropriate calorie amount, because you have to be calorie aware on some level. You can't say, "Hey, I'm gonna lose weight and I'm eating this many calories," when you're actually eating that many calories plus 400. You're never gonna lose weight. No matter how hard you're trying, you're eating too many calories for your needs. So there has to be some level of portion control, and calorie counting or tracking macros is just another tool in the nutrition toolbox to help get faster results. Because if you do weigh and measure food, then you quickly understand how much portion goes into particular foods that you eat on a regular basis. How many times you have to weigh out, say, 6 ounces of a chicken breast to know that that's 6 ounces and I never have to weigh it again. And the rest of my life, I can just put about this much chicken on my plate when I eat. And that's the tool or the versatility to doing some form of tracking or weighing and measuring. Again, not everyone does. And then also, Andrew, I would then just ask some basic questions of, why is there's so much friction around tracking calories? Because again, it's a tool and it can be a learning process for you or your client to quickly understand nutrition. And if you can shorten the gap between someone being unhealthy to healthy, and getting them to, say, track their calories, even writing it down on paper for a week, and they realize, wow, I didn't realize how many calories. That is so personally insightful for that person to then make such faster momentum and progress, because they see it now. It's tangible, it's real. So, like, that's what I always ask people. If they, I was like, just curious, are you interested in tracking or not? No harm either way,
Hmm.
because it doesn't matter. I'm still going to get them to practice portion control and practice better food choices and better food combinations, because those are the building blocks on how to build a healthy lifestyle, regardless of how busy you are or are not in your life.
Fantastic. My gosh, Brian, this is power packed stuff. And I tell you,
Yeah,
you had
bringing some energy.
probably the perfect answer I've ever heard to my hatred for counting calories. So, but what you said was magnificent,
Yeah,
magnificent.
and I'll say one more thing is
Sure.
this is I like throwing this analogy. How do you get a horse to drink the water? Lead the horse to water. How do you get it to drink? Do you know how?
You throw him into throw him in the lake. I don't know.
Well, that's still not going to drink water if it doesn't want to. So how you
No.
do it is you salt the oats that it eats before you take it to the water, and then it'll be
Oh.
thirsty when you're there. So going back to your not so excited about calorie tracking, I could say, "Hey, Andrew, how about we swap out some language and some words in there? What if you said, "Hey, I'm curious about what is in the food that I'm eating, and just starting to pay attention to how many calories I'm eating a day could be a very good first step. And if I can plant that seed in you and get you to be like, okay, because my experience with tracking calories or managing that has been negative, then I'm flipping the script. I'm changing the narrative in your brain of
Mhm.
I hate this to I potentially might be open to it because I have to crack the door. Your door is like double, not
You
locked
got
up and
bolts
all,
up and down
right?
my
Yeah, there's
door.
bolts and something. So I wouldn't come at you saying you have to track. I would start to plant a little seed of hey, how many calories are in that thing you ate last, like that one specific bar or something?
Mhm,
And then
mhm,
you'd say, oh, there's 220 calories in the bar. There you go. I got you to count calories and pay
mhm.
attention to them. And I did it in a way that created a positive connection to then get you to be more comfortable with moving closer and closer to tracking your calories, or at the very least, practicing better portion control. So there you go.
Look at you with the Jedi mind tricks going on there. What the
Yes.
heck? Gee
Well,
whiz.
that's from talking to thousands of people for so long. And the you said it earlier, is my job is to leave the person on the other side of me in a better position than when I found them. And I
Mhm.
have to do whatever it takes to do that. And so finding commonalities, being personable, connecting with them, being relatable, finding the challenges and the strengths and the weaknesses, and playing on those strengths, and is like increasing their education and awareness around things. So now you know that that protein bar has 220 calories and you thought it had 100 or something, as an example. Now we're winning. We're moving you toward taking more responsibility for what you put in your mouth, which then ultimately gets you, say, to the weight, healthy lifestyle that you want. So there you go.
Fantastic. Wow, this is great stuff, Brian. Man, I do
Thank you.
appreciate you being here. Hey, brianparana.com, and I'll link
Yep.
to everything in the show notes. Don't worry about
Perfect.
that, folks. The calltorise.com, and you can find Brian on Coach Brian Parana on most social
Yep.
medias
Yep.
and things of that sort. Brian, thanks for being a guest on here.
Thanks
I'm
you
also going to
having
reserve
me.
the right to have you back some other time so we can do this
Yes.
again.
I'm a father of four. We've traveled the world. My wife is a travel advisor. I've married my high school sweetheart, and we've taken all our kids to all 50 states. And now we're working on all 7 continents. So I have a lot of other things we can talk about too, besides just food.
So yeah, so when Brian says he's busy, folks, he's busy in the
uh,
sense of a family wise. He's a busy guy, obviously.
busy,
So one of those
busy.
he knows his stuff. So all right, this has been Smart Nutrition for Busy Pros. My name is
Yeah.
Andrew Poletto, the face who runs the place. Top Fitness Strategies. My guest Brian Parana. Brian, thank you for being here,
Had a
and,
blast.
and we'll sign off now. So until next time, this is me and Brian. Ciao.
Ciao.